I tried to take it off and I accidentally crossed out my own YouTube live. So anyway, we're back. And we're talking about law of attraction, signs that your manifestations are on the way, and law of attraction in business. And you probably think to yourself, is there really such a place for law of attraction within business? It seems like something so pragmatic such as business and money doesn't have much to do with something so esoteric like law of attraction. That's a bit woo-woo. There is definitely a place. There is definitely a place. Hey, welcome. I don't know if you guys were here before, but if you were, welcome back. I did not turn off my Clubhouse notifications, but I am more mindful. I'm more mindful that I'm getting notifications, so I'm just, hopefully I don't accidentally cross this live out. Oh, hey, Pink October, how you going? Were you here before I got cut off, before I cut myself off? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, law of attraction in business, is that even a thing? Well, I would say that it's a thing, yes, because law of attraction is existent at all times, whether it's in business or in relationships or not. It's just that whether you are aware of how you're using it. Ultimately in business, as people who let out vibrations and that sort of thing, our intent, I want to go down here, our intent, welcome then, Pink October, welcome for the first time. Let me know if there's anything in particular you want me to address. I've made the title of this live Law of Attraction, but if you want to see how it applies in your life, holler at me. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for every Friday. Yeah, so let's say business. So let's say you are on the path to business. You want to create your own thing so that you can be the boss of your own time, so that, oh girl, I got you. Yeah, let's say you want to, you want to be the boss of your own time. You want to be the boss of your own income. You generally just want to be the boss of your own life. And so, let's say you build a side hustle, or then you go in full time. And when this happens, when you become the navigator of your own life and you're creating your own path, there's generally nowhere else to turn to for advice unless you get coaching, right? So we often forget this. When you work in a company, when you don't know what to do, there are such things like systems and standards and, all those boring things that kind of guide us. It's like, if I don't know what to do here, let me look at the manual so that I can do that. If I don't know how to get promoted, let me get advice from someone within the company who's going to give me some advice on how I can get, small business with other streams of income. Yes. So then you would know, Pink October, what it's like when you are the key decision maker in what results in your income, right? Like oftentimes you might find, I need to work with someone, I need to get an advisor, I need to get a coach, I need to get a consultant to sort of help me make the right decisions. But then you also think to yourself many times, for even micro decisions, you're still only having to refer to yourself, or maybe you have your teammates who share different expertise, but ultimately the buck stops at you and your belief system and what you believe you deserve. The thing about law of attraction is that it's always working, right? Whether we attract the things that we want or we attract the things that we don't want. And oftentimes when we're attracting things that we don't want, we kind of think, it's because I'm not, I haven't set out what I want to get, or I don't know, maybe it's just this little thing on the side that I didn't do myself. But realistically, it's got to do with the vibrations that you set out and the intent that you have that sort of sits within. And whether that's a good intention or a bad intention, it actually, these vibrations, it doesn't really calculate what's good or bad. It just calculates the vibration. I don't know, I think I might be going a little bit too far here. I started really reading into things like law of transmutation and energy and quantum physics, and now I'm starting to talk this way. It's so strange. But yeah, same like you, Pink October, I have realized what my strengths are and where my weaknesses lie. And I realize that where I have weaknesses, it's definitely best to hire someone who has strengths in those areas. But it's more about would you agree that you kind of have to have an instinct about you in terms of who you invest your time and money with, hey? Because otherwise you'll get sold anything. It's easy to be sold into anything, especially when you have a burning problem, when you've got this problem that you need to solve and you need to solve it soon. So it's very easy to get sold into anything. But at the end of the day, like who you decide to listen to is again like back down to you. So in this case, I wanted to offer a suggestion around like getting that your energy in alignment. The reason I say this is because sort of in my life, like there's no one that I really knew in my life who is doing what I wanted to do, like which is kind of be in the digital space, serve in the digital space. Like I didn't really know anyone in real life who could kind of guide me. And so I was very much driven by my desire. It was only through desire that was like, let's say if I was on a boat, the sails kind of led in the direction of desire and nothing more. And so, you know, when you're like one person and then you've got all different service providers and coaches and companies who approach you because like they want to help you, but ultimately you are business, they are business as well. You kind of have to really decide like, who am I going to go with? And I've made some decisions in the past and I don't regret any of them. But some of the decisions I've made in the past, I feel like they were there specifically so that I could make a mistake and learn how to trust my own instincts. Have you ever had that experience where you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go here, and you go hard out, you're like bum, bum, bum. And then at the end of it, like what you got was actually what you didn't want. And the reason why you got that was because you were questioning yourself to begin with, when it's like proof that, amazing. And it's just like whenever you make a decision in the wrong direction, it's just proof that oftentimes like we already know what to do, but we're always looking outwards. Like we're always looking outwards for like solutions. And when there are people who want to provide you a solution, you're like, yeah, I'll pick you. In the meantime, you had that solution deep down inside. So I've been practicing something different lately. I love purchasing. I just love purchasing help, advice, because it's really, there are so many things that I've invested in that have seen me go from stage one to like skipping all the drama and then getting to the next phase that I wanted. So I think like it's very, very valuable to get that assistance and invest your time and money in it. But I think it came to a point where I'm not saying that coaching becomes irrelevant, but it comes to a point that perhaps you move on from one coach to the next coach. Or because, you know, you've learned what you could from that program and then you move forward. And then I guess in the moments in between, I realized like, oh, I have the power to make my own decisions. Like I actually have when you start seeing yourself at a different level and the way that you see yourself raises like internally, the world starts to reflect back to you that same level. But what happens when you're in between, like it's like a transition period where you're like going from here to here and you know you're done with what you've been doing and you know you're going towards something else, but you don't know what that looks like just yet. And then what you really have is like your point of attraction, the energy that you put out. And so I started practicing, I've always been like into meditation. I mean, I've always been into the concept of it, but I haven't been a consistent practitioner of it. Although lately I have been practicing a lot more. And the whole purpose of this was to really harness my own intuition, because when it comes to attracting what you are, which we are all attracting what we are right now. Like, have you ever heard of that Pink October? Have you heard of like self-image and how like your world and what you see right now is a reflection of your internal state? So, because that kind of blew my mind when I found out that like, oh my God, everything that I've got is a true reflection of my internal state. And I mean, if like all as humans, you know, our internal state sometimes fluctuates. Sometimes we really believe in ourselves so much. And then sometimes we really doubt ourselves so much. But then you look outside and you're like, did you ever wonder to yourself, like, is my external environment a true reflection of what I think? It's a real mind blow, like. But then when I started to look at, like, I think when you're starting to grow from the inside and your external world is catching up, sometimes the internal state is yet to kind of like believe in what you've manifested, right? And so here's the thing, like I started thinking, okay, law of attraction, manifestations, is there, yeah, it's a mind boggle. It's a total mind boggle. I then started to look at patterns of my life and other people that I look up to. And not everybody believes in law of attraction. Not everybody believes in manifestation. And yet, to be honest, you don't really have to believe in it for it to work for you. Because like I said, we're all doing it anyway. Like it's all happening for us, regardless whether you believe it or not. And I started looking at patterns of people who are about to, yeah, I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Because if people knew that we were like, you know, we're all sort of attracting at a level, then we'd be more intentional about it. But yeah, one of the patterns that I saw is that when you've reached like your, the height, like the height of where, let's say this is me, and then I wanted to, this is my internal state, right? Like, so this is your internal state, and then you get help, you get coaching, and you start growing, and then you reach your height of what you thought you were. All the blocks come up. Like this is what they call like the glass ceiling, you know, like you reach your level. And this is why personal growth is all very subjective, because you have to start from where you are. Like this is my growth, this is my ceiling. My ceiling might not be applicable to someone else's ceiling might be up here, and maybe their growth comes from up here. It's all really relative, right? But what happens when you're starting to catch up to your goal, you go like this and you start touching it, and you're like, right, okay, let's set some new goals. This is a new way of being. And then there's a time of calibrating. So you start calibrating to, you know, your new life, your new existence. And let's say, talking about this in like real time, in like human time, like this, what this looks like reaching your glass ceiling might take like 5 years to get there. And then hovering around that area could take another, you know, sometimes you hover around that area for like 2 days, 3 days, but sometimes you hover around that area for like 2 years, 3 years. This applies to business, but this could apply to relationships as well. Like, you know, when you get to a level, you start to get frustrated on a regular basis and you're not too sure why. It often, from what I've observed anyway, it often means that you've reached your glass ceiling and you're ready to grow. You're ready to grow. And I'm not saying that your internal or external environment starts to need to change, because you're like, oh, I've outgrown this business, I've outgrown this relationship, oh, I've outgrown, and you just feel like you've outgrown, so you feel like it's their job to change. But actually, no, you've reached your personal glass ceiling. I'm going to bring up the comments because I can't see them. They come and then they disappear. And so anyway, how do I bring them up? Live chat. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so Becky, like manifesting big things and like, so apparently, we'll talk about that in a sec, but apparently manifesting big and small is all kind of the same. It's more like your point of attraction. When you label something as small, then you think it's easy, so it's therefore easy for you to align with that. And then when you label something as big, you're naturally creating a gap between you and that, because you're looking at the thing that you want to manifest as something like big. But if you that's why, like, if you start to change your internal state and start to realize that that big thing that you want to manifest is not actually that big, it's just a thing, like that thing is the same as that thing, then you start to like bridge the gap. But yeah, like talking about like reaching that glass ceiling, it's kind of like, honestly, some people will reach their glass ceiling and actually, yes, affirmations and starting to really believe it internally. But when it comes to like, yeah, reaching your glass ceiling, a lot of people never go past that. So for example, like business owners who reach the pinnacle of height of their business, and that's where it stays, and they might stay like busy forever, and they're always personally busy because they're in their business, but internally they want to grow. And so what happens when you reach that and you're like, right, let's set some new goals, let's start getting the new thing. What I've noticed happens is that's when the biggest challenges start to come up, or what we deem are the biggest challenges ever. And this is what I realize, they're not actually big challenges. They only appear to be big challenges because we are outgrowing our old belief system. So at the beginning, it seems really hard and harsh because they are new actions and belief systems that we're not used to yet. We're like not calibrated to yet. It's like, imagine your iPhone, right? Your iPhone, it's like you're at iPhone, I don't know, 7. And let's pretend your iPhone can upgrade to iPhone 13 without changing the machinery. And it's trying to do that, and it's trying to do it so much. Like the machine is trying, but it's just like the mechanism of it is struggling to update. And nobody told you, let's say, they're like, oh, it will update, but it will do so in, I don't know, 20 hours. But because there's no one out there telling you, oh, it's going to take 20 hours, you kind of think that, oh, it should be done in like 1 hour. And because it wasn't done in like that 1 hour, you're like, this sucks, I'm just going to throw this phone away. And that's what happens with like in life, like when you've reached your height and you almost come to this point where you have to decide, like, am I going to stay here and just accept this? And sometimes, honestly, like sometimes accepting it is the first step to dissipating the big and small goal. Like when you accept, you're like, right, I'm here. It's like very uncomfortable, but just because it's very uncomfortable doesn't mean it's the end of everything. It just means that, right, your awareness of the level that you're at really increases. And once your awareness of the level that you're at is there, then you sort of reduce that resistance. When you start reducing the resistance of the level that you're at, surprisingly, the ceiling starts to disappear. And so you go from here, and let's say you wanted to go up here, the ceiling starts to disappear because you're no longer trying to butt your head against it, because it's not so much about butting your head against the glass ceiling to break it. It's about like accepting it so that it can kind of be like, yeah, I know you exist, and it starts to disappear. It starts to fade away. And so like going back to the goal that you mentioned in terms of like manifesting something small and then manifesting something big, sometimes the attachment to like manifesting that big thing is like so there that it actually starts to transmit, or it starts to project as more of a resistance rather than an acceptance. I'm not sure if that really makes sense, but the reason I'm saying this is because I have been there, and to be honest, like I'm still there sometimes. I'm still there. I often find myself in that place of manifesting big things, and I will find myself like bumping against that glass ceiling, trying to manifest it sooner rather than later. Whereas when you know that it's there for you, like have a think about this, right? Think about the feeling of like, let's say, do you like oranges? Let's just use the example of an orange. Say you want an orange, and the orange is like right there. It's in a bowl, and it's about 1 meter away from you. And you know that if you reach out, oh, hey, cool, rock and roll, hey, Phil, I remember your name. You've changed your name back. Okay, we're talking about manifestations today, and manifesting big things versus big things and small things, and how they're all one thing, but it's our perception of them. So let's say you want that orange. The orange is just in the bowl, but because you see it and you know that all you need to do is reach out for it. And even if it might be sort of almost beyond what you think you can, because you think it's small, it's really easy. But let's say you wanted to manifest a Mercedes-Benz and you know, you're like, it's in the bowl, but it's like, you think that, you just think that it's like too much. It's like, it's too big. You can't just reach out for it and get it. There's like this thing that's blocking you, and it's just so big. And so by that, like when you know that something's out there and easy, there's no resistance, right? In the energy that we put out, we just know. You're just sitting there, you're just chilling because you know it's there. Whether you pick it up today or whether you pick it up tomorrow, to some level it kind of matters, but it doesn't really matter because you know that it's there. But then when we're looking at things that we might not have had before, or something that's bigger than usual, then we automatically like put it on a pedestal. And then when you start to, I guess what I'm saying here is my practical exercise, yes, I do a practical exercise for things that I want to manifest and things that I have manifested in the past. And ironically, this is what's happened. I put my attention to it. 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 Something will happen. A block will come up. And then I almost let it go. And once I let it go, an opportunity comes where, because I let it go already, something comes up, and then all of a sudden it became mine. And it just blew my mind. Can I talk about one experience? 1 meter away from the person trying, thanks for the greeting. Manifesting, I'm just reading comments, manifesting of something a person desires, whoops. Where is it? Manifesting of something a person desires, a person plays body language. Oh my God, the other day I was counting the things that I manifested, like things that I thought were too big. One of them is my relationship. Yeah, truly. Oh my God, it was like the biggest nightmare of them all. It just felt like such a nightmare when I wanted it. I was like pretending that I didn't want it, because I was like, that would be so embarrassing if I just put it out there and just said that I really liked him and that I wanted to be with him, blah, blah, blah. How embarrassing would that be? I don't know if you want to know this story, but I did know what kind of, oh my God, I can't believe I'm telling the story. It's a relationship story, but like, I knew what kind of person I wanted to be with. And I knew that to some level it was going to be hard to get that. I don't know why. I thought it was going to be hard to get that kind of relationship, that kind of guy. And then, like, I just knew it. So much so that I just didn't know if it would ever happen. Now, I'm not speaking from a place that, like, I truly think that everything changes. Everything is changing eternally. So the reason why I never talk about relationships ever, ever, ever is because, like, what you say today, you never guarantee that it's going to be like the same thing 5 years from now. The best thing that you can do is do your best to work towards it and make sure that you're working in the right, in the right direction to strengthen things. But so that's something that I really, I've been getting signs from universities. So hang on, I'm reading. If I was going into circumstance, when I see a sign, I believe it and take it. It can save a person from heartache and mental grief due to past trauma. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like we have so many variables that help us make decisions, right? And so that's what we're holding on to in terms of this decisions, where we hold on to, like, well, I know as well, like, when you have trauma, it's like, it's almost part of you, it's embedded in you. And then that's one thing that you use to make a decision. And then you've got your gut feeling, which is like part of you innately. So then you use that to guide your decision. There's so many things that guide your decision. But ultimately, I found that through the healing of such things like trauma. I found that through, because here's like trauma and here's like instinct, right? When you heal, this one goes down a little bit more, and then this one goes up a little bit more. And oh my God, the pain it's rough, like shadow work. It's called like shadow work. And when you're doing these things, it's like rough, but then you actually do it and you let the feeling out. It starts to dissipate and this comes out, and it's insane. But yeah, like when I was looking at the things that I manifested, like we were talking about this last week, I'm not a systemized person. I'm not a planner, but I do know what I want. And there were such things that once I let go of them, that's when it came out. So example was the relationship. So we met in Dubai. I was a flight attendant. He was flying as well. And it was just in Dubai. It's just like really hard. Well, I don't want to create some new beliefs around here, but there's a known thing that when you're flying all the time and traveling all the time, it's really hard to build a strong relationship, like a strong one, enough to build a life upon, enough to create a future with. There's like so many different variables that you're working with. And again, it's like a consistent sort of either working towards that or working against that. And anyway, so this pending relationship thing was there for what felt like a lifetime. And in my head, I would just say, no, I'm not into it. No, it's fine if I'm not. But really, I was into it. I was like really into this guy. I just liked the way he was. And then one day when I realized, oh, this isn't going to go anywhere. Like, Christine, just carry on with your life. This really is not going anywhere. I decided to, that's when I decided to leave Dubai. And then that's when I told him, I was like, I'm leaving Dubai. And then that's when it came up and he didn't want me to leave. And all of a sudden, like that shook all of the decisions that I made. But anyway, it did. I was like, why is this happening? Is this like, why are you saying this now? You had all the time in the past. Like, are you doing this because like, did someone else that you liked not like you back? Like, why are you coming to, why me? And I questioned it quite a lot, but you know, towards the end of it, before I handed in my resignation, I looked at it and I said, okay, fair enough. Like, if I don't hand in my resignation, the worst thing that could happen is we could do this and it's not going to work and then it will suck. But it's just time. It's only time, right? Well, time and potential heartache. But what the heck? There was already heartache here before we were in this relationship anyway. So I gave it a go, and then he's still my partner now. The other thing was I really wanted to upgrade my car. Oh my God. I need to tell you the story because it's ridiculous. So I've never been a car person. To me, the way that I used to see cars is like any car can take you from A to B. And I personally love I personally love investing my money in things that will help me grow. I feel like when you grow, you take that with you and everything in your life improves, right? Anyway, for the longest time, I'd been investing money into my business, and that's all. That's it. Branding, business, whatever. Until one day I was like, you know what? I would really like to change my car. Because back then I had a car which I bought when we first got back here from Dubai, and I stuck with that car. And that car was like, it was old and it was average, and it wasn't even average, it was below average, let's be honest. It was like the radio system was broken, and I remember it was broken at one time that I had to bring a bloody Bluetooth speaker so that I could play my own music in the car. And I lived like this. Like I was just like, I had no problem spending all this money on like other things like personal development and building this business, and then I was driving this shitty car. And then one day I was like, you know what, I'd really like to change my car, like a Mercedes-Benz, thanks. And that's why I used that as an example earlier, because there was no in between. There was like this shitty car and like my best car. And I wanted this car to be like dark color, almost black or black. I wanted it to be two-door. I wanted to have a big sunroof. And that was like the dream for me. So anyway, one day I decided, I think, you know what, I drive around all the time. I think it would be good if I could really enjoy my drives, because I was doing photography. And so I was driving all around, you know, wherever. And that was one of the perks of doing photography and consulting. It was one of the perks is that you're the boss of your own time. You're the boss of your own location. And yet I was driving this car. And then I was like, started looking for the cars, and it just seemed like a bit ridiculous. Like, why should you buy this car, which is going to be pretty impractical? First of all, it's impractical for my equipment. It's impractical in so many ways. And anyway, so I started looking and I couldn't find one. I was just like, yeah, it's going to cost too much if I choose this car. I should just like change. And so I found an Audi. Anyway, my partner was even telling me you should just get something more practical. Just get an Audi. You know, it's still got that feeling. It's still, you know, what you want. You'll still be comfortable in it, but it's just not going to be a Mercedes. And I was like, okay, cool. And I found one and I made an offer, and I actually put a deposit on it. And the guy who I bought it from rang me and was like, oh, I should let you know that I messed with the odometer. Do you know that? You know, the one that tells you how many kilometers it's done. And it turns out he didn't really know that that was illegal. And so I was like, okay, is this guy like serious? Like maybe I didn't know it was that serious either. So I was just going to accept it. And he goes, no, I need to give you your deposit back. And so here I was about to like upgrade from my car, the car that I needed a Bluetooth speaker in so that I could listen to music, to this like nice car. And then it fell through. And then I was like, oh, well, this sucks. I guess, you know, maybe now is just not the time. Whatever. I just let it go. You know, cars are everywhere. And then one night, my partner had already gone to bed and I was sitting on the couch and I was like, let me start afresh. So we're still talking about manifestations and law of attraction, right? And how it's always working in your favor. And if you are strong in what you want, it will deliver. Everything, oh my God, it would deliver. So that one night, it was random. I cleared my search because in my search, I put in like BMW, Audi, Lexus, Mercedes-Benz. I think that was pretty much it. And then that night I was just like, clear all. I was like, if I really could just get the one that I want, like just look for it. I cancelled everything. I left Mercedes-Benz in there. And then I saw one and I was like, this is too good to be true. And then I was like, nah, maybe he's the same as the last guy. Like maybe he messed with the odometer. Like why is it such a good price? Anyway, I still messaged him, and then the next day I even told my partner, who was like not super on board with it because of the impracticality of all. Long story short, I got the car. But the thing was, there had to be this happen, that. And I'm not saying that in the way of the universe and law of attraction that it's always going to be hard. I think that it was just hard because I also didn't believe that I could do it and that I deserved it and that it was for me. And when I let all of those blocks go away, you know, and you keep, like, here's the thing, if you keep your desire there and you're unwavering about it, it will happen for you, because you're only like, what you do is only a part of the equation. Like you are not the sole getter of all the things that you want. You are one of the steps of it. And what happens when you start emitting energy about what you want and you do your part? Like, there are so many other factors in the world, in the universe, that are there to make things happen. Sorry, I'm just catching up on comments. Sounds like you had to let go of trying to steer. Yes, I needed to let go of the outcome. And just reading shadow work. So, Phil, I'm just reading false of attachment. Yes, don't give too much, give a little, and focus on yourself and go on about your day. Good things will come and control your mind. I manifest healing, strength, and restoration, and let go of anything that doesn't benefit me. I wish them well and I hope they have fun. I need happiness and peace of mind. Yes, yes to all of this. And you know, the crazy thing about, like, when you focus on your own healing, you start to attract the right things that belong in that space. And sometimes, ultimately, we have those contrasting experiences so that we can be firm of what we need to let go of. Because sometimes when we're not clear, we hold on to the things that we need to let go of. But yeah, Becky, you're right. Like, it's not even that I had to let go. It's that there's a different, I'm still trying to find the words of some things of, like, doing something because you have to and doing something because you just let it go. Just dropping the pen. But that's almost like even intentional. Like, something will happen and you just drop it, and then it's almost like you're clearing space. You're clearing you're clearing your energy of things, of your own limiting beliefs. So what am I saying here? I mean, I'm still very truly in touch with letting go of some of my own expectations and the things I want to control, because I'm a control freak. No, just kidding. I mean, I kind of am, but but in so many things, there are other things I've manifested that I didn't expect them to come from there. You know, like things that I wanted that I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that to happen, but they were just happening in that direction because that was the direction I was meant to go in at all times. And sometimes leading to that place of manifesting what you truly, truly want can feel like a real pain in the ass. Because, you know, sometimes it means dropping some of the things that you thought you valued, but they're actually not serving you in the best possible way. So what can we do then to start attracting the things that we want in a more effortless manner? So what I can share with you now are things that I have worked for me, and because they've worked for me, I'm currently more harnessing that kind of way of being than the other way of being that I don't think was working for me. So one is when I start to feel a sense of tension or resistance, that's a sign for me. Like, the moment that I become aware that I have become attached to an emotion, a reaction, a desire, like the moment I feel like, I'm like, oh, I'm acting like I want it that much. Or I actually feel the tension in my body. Like, do you guys ever feel that, like, when you want something, you don't even realize it because it's just your state of being. You actually think that tension inside of you is you, but actually you're just used to it, because a full relaxation is like it feels effortless, right? So from the moment that I get the thought, or I realize that I'm in that space of tension or needing too much, or even need, that's when it sounds so cheesy, but it's a time to sort of take a break, but not even try to suppress it. It's more so like acknowledging that it's there. Like, it's okay for that desire to be there. It's okay, like, if you feel attached, it's totally okay. It's what does cause more friction is trying to be like, it's not okay. Like, if you think that it's not okay for you to feel resistance, then that's you resisting resistance, you know, and it's almost like the desire to be productive has become unproductive. So in acknowledging that something exists, like a feeling, a reaction, to be able to acknowledge it and still be okay with it, and okay with yourself, and okay with how you feel, I've found is the fastest way. It's the fastest way to like releasing and dissolving. What it actually does is that it dissolves the feeling of attachment just in that moment. And if it doesn't, again, all you have to do is acknowledge that it's there and it's not dissolving it, and that's okay. Like, you're human, we are human. To feel emotions like anger and like being upset, they're okay. I actually found that it works even in like when I'm, if you're having conversations with someone and you feel as though you're reacting, and then when you're reacting, you're both acting on defense and you're communicating in defense of what you want and how you feel, and they're the same. And I started even integrating it into conversations, and I might say like, yes, I'm angry, and I'm angry, but that doesn't make you a bad person. No one here is a bad person. This is just how I feel. This is just how I feel for now. So I just have to, you know what I mean? And so acknowledging that, because sometimes when we get angry or upset or disappointed, whoever is part of that conversation automatically feels like it's them. Like if you feel angry, and so therefore we start to feel like we don't deserve to feel those kinds of emotions which aren't positive. Because, especially when you're in a dynamic of, there's another person who is receiving those emotions which aren't positive. They're not like, woo, it's a party, yeah, like they are receiving that end of the stick. And by acknowledging that it's there and acknowledging that that doesn't make them like horrible or anything like that, it starts to dissipate that pressure from both people. It dissipates the pressure from you to have to feel as though you have to be positive, even though you don't feel positive. And it dissipates the reaction of the other person from feeling guilty or upset or feeling like they're not good enough. So what I'm saying here is like, I've started applying this in all areas of my life, which is the acknowledgement part, and really being in that acknowledgement and acknowledging that it's okay, and still loving yourself in that moment, while still being able to be in the moment. It's probably the most the fastest way, and I find that with that, it really does relieve those blocks. So when it comes to like manifesting things or people or there's this whole trend about manifesting your looks, like it's just bringing to reality the things that we want, right? Like there's so much power, and it's so underrated and underspoken about. Like it's not given enough attention as it really deserves, because the first step to getting closer to what you want is acknowledging that you don't have what you want. It sounds funny, and it almost sounds like it's got a negative twang to it, but it's not. I don't know if you agree, but that's what whether in agreement or not, when I observe the difference between manifesting what you want faster and almost like pushing away things that you want, the line or the thing that's really there is like this barrier. It's like a thick glass barrier of resistance, and it's much harder to work against it and try to beat it down rather than it is to dissolve it. And the thing that allows us to dissolve it is to acknowledge that it's there. Like there can very much be a glass wall between you and what you want, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible for it to go away. Not go away, but it's not impossible for it to dissolve into something more productive. Because like they say in law of transmutation, energy doesn't just disappear, it merely transforms. And we as beings that transmit energy have the power to do that, and we can do it consciously with our minds and with our feelings. So I don't know if we went like a bit too far out there. Like I still very abnormal. It feels very unnatural for me to talk about these things, but I think that's why I come to YouTube to talk about these things. Like I don't talk about these things on my Instagram. My Instagram is very it's very commercial. Like it's not in a bad way, but it's like Instagram. It's very Instagram, and that's where I like to lay out lifestyle and like fun, and it's lighthearted, and here tips about social media to businesses, because it's a great place for that. But I know that whoever's in here, maybe we're on the same page in terms of these kinds of things, and maybe we believe in the same kind of things. All I know is that when I was starting to learn about this, I started to search, and I was wanting more information to be out there in a way that I could understand, in a way that I could consume and apply. And so sometimes I'm driven to talk about these things. So let me read. Oh, thanks, Becky. And honestly, like the concept is so wild. The concept is so wild, And the more that it unfolds and the more that I observe it unfold, not just for me, but other people, it's like, it's such a fine line, and it's no wonder why it can be challenging to understand, not just understand, because I think the understanding of the theory is there, but in more so like applying. And so what this looks like in a life of someone who doesn't believe in it, you know, that not everybody believes in law of attraction and manifestation and that sort of thing. But if we were to give an example of someone who manifests what they want naturally versus someone who manifests what they want with a lot of struggle, I'm just going to paint a picture. This is going to be a stark comparison, but there are some comparisons out there. They're like the rich and the poor. The rich spend money like this and the poor spend money like this. And this is like stark polarity of like two ways of being, right? And it's in the most physical example. It's the most physical example. And yes, again, I'm catching, I don't know why the comments, they disappear, but maybe it's so that I need to pushing away something that, thank you. The idea that this works if you believe or not is mind-blowing. Yeah, well, okay. So going back to that thing of like people manifesting whether they believe or not. So this is the conversation we're about to hop into. So, you know, this is a stark representation, and I think this is going to be very fluid, and I don't know if you're going to agree with it, because sometimes I don't even know if I agree with it, but from my observation, there's this common comparison. It's online, it's everywhere. People talk about this all the time. They always compare rich with poor. Movies are about it. Like, there's so many things, right? It's like putting this and that. And so, but let's put it in the context of law of attraction and manifestations. So, so they say rich versus poor, and they say the rich manifest more. They go, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. But let's talk about that in the scheme of like law of attraction and manifestation. A lot of the time people want to manifest some sort of money to some level, whether it's this amount or that amount. And you find that if like, I feel very cringy talking about this, but it's the only way that I can describe a physical representation of the polarity of attracting based on your belief system backed by your feelings. So when you come from a place where money is scarce, your energy and everything about money is already scarce. And when you are desiring money, your attachment and your feeling and your way of being around that money is coming from a place of lack. That's your point of attraction. And that happens naturally, because it's almost like if you were born with not a lot of money to begin with, that's what it almost becomes innate to you. Oh, guys, I feel so cringy talking about this. This is probably the boldest I've ever talked about law of attraction, but it's the only way that I can represent it. Anyway, your point of attraction. So when you have been raised without a lot of money and you believe like everything is expensive, and you're like, that's a yes because of the price, that's a no, and everything in your life, you're like filtering through numbers. You're like filtering through the dollar value of that and the dollar value of that. And that's purely like, you know, your understanding of money. And its point of attraction is from lack. And then compared to, let's say if you're born into a lot of money, your natural state is that money is abundant. So that's your point of attraction. And the way you treat money is that it's abundant, because that's what you know. And so what happens is they say the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And that's because your belief system, if you don't do anything to get out of it, not just in your mind and your feelings, but in your actions, you stay there. And then therefore there's this almost downward spiral. Poor get poorer, rich get richer. And then you go, okay, well, why can these people achieve this and why can't these people achieve that? And it's because we have to break through barriers of what we believe. So if you come from a place of lack, then ultimately the glass ceiling that you have to break through is the belief of lack. You actually have to get yourself to a place where you believe that money is abundant, even if your physical reality doesn't show that it is. And what that actually looks like as a point of attraction is you do have to start changing your beliefs. And your beliefs can only really be changed if you back it up with emotion. So your mind and your heart, your emotions about money have to change first. Not just about money as in the physical thing, but your stance, your relationship in terms of how that money belongs to you. And that's a different kind of work, like that's a lot of work as well. And then let's say we're saying, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. But then if you're coming from this point of attraction and saying money is so abundant, and that's your point of attraction, that's your if we were to say 0 is your starting point, your starting point from here about money is down here, and your starting point from money is here, but you're both at your point 0. And so if it's money that you want to manifest, the thoughts and feelings have to first raise to match the level of 0 of someone who already has money. Does that make sense? You have to raise your vibration so that you can dissipate your beliefs around money from the point of attraction from lack. So it's quite a concept. And I'm saying this from a place of experience. I did not grow up with a lot of money. And one of the biggest things that I've invested in is to learn how to feel worthy of it. It's just insane. And so you spend money to make money, and now I get it. You spend money to make money. Back then, it was kind of like, I was like, oh, you spend money to make money. Yeah, sure. What about people who backstrap their companies? Is that backstrap their companies? Sorry. What about people who bootstrap their companies? They don't come from any money. What do you mean? But they realize that the currency that they have at the time to exchange is time. And time is money, effectively. Time is money. So, yes, Phil, a person has to break barriers. Yes. And even, so now I haven't given I haven't really given much explanation about what happens if you already come from a point of attraction of money. But your belief system is that you have money. You're born into it, let's say. And so naturally, you are already thinking, okay, money is abundant, it's everywhere, I can do that. And you live in that way. You live, but here's the catch. It's not really a catch. Being born into money it's not the solution for everything, right? Because why then are there people who have a lot of money, but they're not happy? And their point of attraction is still, again, lack. It's different. So again, let's say point of attraction is like 0, and a person who was born into no money starts here, but this is only talking about money, and then the person who has point of attraction of money is up here, who's already born into it. You have to catch up first to believe that money is abundant. But then what about the people who already have that thing about money? It's abundant, it's everywhere, but the belief about themselves is 0. So then it goes down. What did they say about, if you come into money intentionally on purpose because of you, then you're likely to still, if you intentionally go there and you've done it, you will be able to sort of swim in that for more. You can celebrate it a lot more. You can grow it, not just hold on to it, because there needs to be flow. There needs, cash flow, that's why it's called cash flow. You'll be able to make it flow and be able to flourish. But then when you come into money of no doing of your own, it becomes harder to do that, to make it flourish. And maybe you're born into money from generational wealth. It's the same thing. Maybe perhaps in your generation, it's come in with ease, but with repeat behaviors, either from you, and you create new generational behaviors and belief systems. Then wealth goes up and wealth goes down. Wealth goes up, wealth goes down. And you're ultimately what I'm saying is that you are still the point of attraction, whether it's for that, whether it's for money or whether it's for relationships. And so when it comes to consciously manifesting what we want and business, I guess I put it in those terms because if you're in it for yourself and you're in it for your life and you're in it for future generations to come, then it is my point of view, it's 1000% that you remain in that growth cycle. And whether or not you're in a program or not, but the momentum of your growth, sometimes you grow and then you're going to have to recalibrate your mind and your feelings, and you recalibrate, because you're entering new levels. I think it's about becoming aware of like your personal glass ceiling once you reach that, and becoming aware of, you know, the behaviors that start to rise up when you're there. And that's why I say when you're about to manifest what you really want, sometimes that's when the biggest barriers come, not so that you can resist it, but more so that you can see it as something that's no longer a barrier, but something that if you can ride that wave, it will dissolve. Because if you're just riding the wave and you're not resisting it, then how it cannot go stronger. You're riding with it. Again, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just the point that I really wanted to make here is that going with the flow is probably one of the most effective things that you can do when you're in the context of, in the situation of reaching the barrier that you believe that you have reached when you see it. So, guys, I think we went a bit deep today. Don't know. You know, last week we were talking about making YouTube videos. PS, is anyone here from last week? I gave you guys some exercises to do to start practicing, to get you to the place that you want to be. And always remember, your actions must align with where you want to be. You know, first your thoughts need to, your feelings need to, and then the final frontier is your actions. So if you're already there and you want to manifest your channel, your YouTube channel, your business or something else, or your other marketing arm or something, then this might be the place that those exercises would come in really handy, because you have to act in preparation for receiving what it is. You know, to get 100 subscribers, 200 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers, you've got to prepare yourself for that. And one of the steps of preparation is doing. Preparing your everything, preparing your channels, now I'm just going to catch up. Woo! Some good comments up here. Should I start from? I'm going to start from the bottom and roll up. Does that make sense? You have to let it do its thing without altering it. Yeah, apparently there's this thing about delayed, when you're transforming and sometimes it feels like things are falling apart. It's just the universe kind of calibrating itself to your new vibration. And sometimes it happens like quite rapidly. It's happening so quickly that it's like, it feels like everything's falling apart, but it's actually not falling apart. It's being rearranged for you. What's there? A person has to break barriers in their beliefs of their well-being, even when things are rocky. Yeah, especially when things are rocky. Thank you, Phil. You've been very gracious. Take your time. I think you're right. Maybe I was trying to steer at the outcome. Oh, Becky, it's a difficult concept. The idea that this works for you, if you believe it or not, is mind-blowing. Yeah, that's right. I was going to give you some examples of people who don't really believe in it. Think about some of the leaders of the world. Maybe they believe it or not, but they've manifested their positions as a leader in the world, and some of them are not really, you know, we wouldn't say, oh, that person is the nicest person in the world, but their point of attraction for that specific position, the way that they see themselves, their self-image is like quite at that level where they believe they should be there. Maybe they don't even believe in law of attraction at all. It's just their state of being. I heard this something on a podcast or something recently, and they were saying like, once you get to a state of like your mindset being so strong, you actually stop talking about mindset because that's just your state of being. And I was like, that's so true, because people who are really funny don't often talk about being funny. They're just funny. And that's how I was like, something clicked. I was like, yeah, when well-being is your natural state. But I don't know, because I like to talk about things that I love. And at the same time, like, I really value having learned certain lessons from some people, and without them having shared these things that they know and that they learned, then I feel like I wouldn't have. But yeah, when you're in a state of a strong mindset and you're in a state of believing in yourself, and that's just your way of being, it's almost not even a conversation, because that's who you are. And so in all of this, I think like talking about it is part of calibrating. And then, hey, what are you doing here? Chris, What Chef? Everybody meet Chris. His name is What Chef. Have you been here this whole time? Or are you just joining? We're about to wrap up in like a couple of minutes. But yeah, we were talking about law of attraction and manifestation, and states of being. Our point of attraction is where we are. And you know, when I say where we are, what I'm really talking about is it's all self-image. It's all self-image. So when you think something is big, then it's big for that image that you have of yourself. If it's small, it's because it's that, you know, it's small for the person that you're being at that time. One last thing I'm going to say is, you know, sometimes when I want to get to a place where I don't want to have any queries about who I am and my self-image, this is what I do, and it really helps. Try it. You should try this. Lately I've been doing it and it's been like epic. It's like, what would my ideal self, how would she react in this situation? So even when it comes to writing emails, like sometimes I've been nervous lately because, you know, we're leveling up. And so the work that I'm doing is like, again, it just keeps getting better and better. And I'm like, sometimes, you know, when you get to that place where you're getting something that you want, you get a bit nervous. So I'll be writing an email and I'll be writing from my current state. You know, the one who's I feel like I'm currently in transition or I've just reached it, you know. I'll be like this. I'll stop writing, I take a breath and I'm like, how's the ideal Christine? Like the next version of her, what is she like when this situation comes along? I'm like, she's not sweating over this email. Babe, but just write the email. Cool and calm. Just pretend that no one's going to receive it. What would that look like? And I'm like, oh my God, I read the email later. I was like, she's so effortless. She's so effortless. It's just so natural to her. And it's been quite entertaining for myself. So if you feel like you're leveling up and you're wondering, oh, is this something that I should do? Is this something that I don't do? Do I drive my own? You put yourself in that state of mind and you go, the highest version of me, you know, whatever that is, think about the characteristics, the personality traits, the inner state of being. If I was operating from that place, like what would he or she say? And you actually start to operate differently. You start to operate as that person rather than the old behaviors that you're actually shedding. So, yeah. Yeah, Becky, man, this person who's coming up, she's just like so relaxed about everything. She's not attached too much. She's just like, yeah, everything works for me. And so when you, I'm like, oi, we've gone real informal here. When you think about that thing that you want, right? If you, like, this is not a hack, but it works. That big thing that you want, right? So you're manifesting from your current point of attraction, which is you right now, today, with your limiting beliefs about what it is that you want. Now, okay, take your time to do that as you are. Don't worry about like trying to resist that and trying to abolish that. Be more like, yeah, that's you. But then step into the shoes of the higher Becky, right? You're like, okay, what's higher Becky like? You're like, she's cool. This thing's so normal to her. She's not even trying to manifest it because it's already there. And and not just that, then you start to feel like what would higher Becky feel like? What feelings does she feel about it? Oh, it's nothing. And you're gonna start, oh my God, if something happens to you and you get this, and the thing that you've been wanting to manifest comes around in some form, please tell me because I'll be so excited for you. But I found that that's what's been happening on my end. And it's been really like mind-blowing. But at the same time, I'm telling myself, Christine, it's not mind-blowing, it's normal. It's normal, babe. Like, that's just how things work for you. That's where we are at the moment. So I am in my practice of law of attraction and manifestation. So it's definitely a lot more fun consciously manifesting things rather than like not being conscious about it. I mean, who cares? If it's manifesting and it's what you want, it doesn't really matter. No, it does. Because apparently when you consciously bring it in, it's more longer lasting and it can thrive a lot more. But anyway, there's no such good or bad things in terms of manifesting, whether, you know, if it's what you want, it's what you want. And it's just another confirmation. It's another confirmation that what we want is always out there. So guys, that's taking us to the end of this live. It's been a pleasure having you, for real. Guys, whoever's here, give me a shout. Where are you from? Where are you tuning in from? What did you like about this? What do you want to talk about next week? Phil, I know you said let's talk about, last week you mentioned let's talk about anxiety and natural healing remedies. I got you on that. We can talk about that. I've done all the therapies out there. And what I'm starting to learn now, like oh, that's right, you're in Atlanta. Must be late there. In a nutshell, of all of those therapies that I've tried, at the end of the day, oh, Canada. You guys are coming from the other side of the world. Anybody from this side of the, yes, anyone on this side of the hemisphere? Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Philippines, holla. Natural remedies. So I've learnt, like foods. Near Seattle, Becky, it's the States. Woo, represent. I don't get to speak with a lot of people with a different accent in my real life over here. So it's quite a pleasure knowing that you guys are from the other side of the world. What I found with all of these, I didn't tell you, but I just had will I tell you? Yeah, I just had a colonoscopy yesterday. And I also did a lab test from my gut. I'm Filipino, that's my background, and I am in Australia. So it's currently, I think it's 3 p.m. here. Yeah, it's 3:15. So I had a lab test done from my gut because I was just not comfortable there for a long time. So I had a lab test to see if I had any allergies to gluten, any allergies for that reason. And I wanted to see if there are any bugs in there. Ew, that sounds gross. But I got tested for that, saw a wellness coach. And then my test came back like ideal. He was like, your test came out like one of the cleanest I've seen. He goes, I'm going to show my mentor just to get a second opinion. She looked at my test and it was like super clean. So I was like, all right, why am I not feeling that great? And then I was like, oh, maybe, it's a mind-body alignment. So just to be sure, I went and got a colonoscopy and everything came out perfect as well. So then I realized I would say it's mind-body alignment. Anyway, it came out really well. Yes. So Filipino background, both my parents are Filipino and I was raised in Australia, but I was actually born in the Philippines. And I speak Filipino. So if there's any Filipinos out here, let me know so we can speak Tagalog. So everything came out well. And what's my point of saying this? Or when it comes to natural healing therapies, I'm starting to discover that the point of all of this is so that we can feel at our highest and actually be well. And so I have had experiences of anxiety, like quite overwhelming actually, especially when I used to fly. When I was a flight attendant, I didn't really know that was anxiety, but it was. I found out that it was. And really what I found is like healing self in terms of my belief about who I am. And this is just my personal experience and my personal opinion. So I can't, and I'm speaking from the experience of someone who's gone through it, been through it, living it, not someone who teaches it or is a practitioner of anything. Becky, you would have such beautiful children. Yes, good mix. And I found that understanding myself was probably one of the best healing things of all time. And then one of the benefits of it was, I guess, would I say business? I know that sounds very disconnected. No, but one of the best benefits of it is that like life really started to fall into place. And when we talk about manifestations and getting the things that you want, turns out that once you work on your internal state, the health starts to follow. Like since I've been working with that wellness coach, my gut, and I've been doing a lot of shadow work with him. I just finished my sessions with him. We did like 8 or 9. Anyway, most of them were like shadow work. We did something called sacred geometry. Now, if you want to go like deep, sacred geometry is probably one of my favorite things that I've ever done because you're fully conscious. But I'm a very visual person. So through the sessions, I would actually have memories from like my childhood. A lot of this stuff actually had to do with like money mindset and self-doubt and maybe it was manifesting in my gut region. I don't know. But we did a lot of shadow work and that was amazing. I started to see where my beliefs really came from. I started to understand what to do with those beliefs. Because I mean, what do you do when you discover, oh, I've got money mindset problems? They're not problems, but like, oh, I've got self-belief problems. Like, what do I do with that? Like, awareness is one thing, but healing it is another, right? So once I discovered those things, I really invested into healing in it, because it's the only way to be. And I don't know that this really applies to everyone. You know, sometimes you look at people and everyone's at their peak state, and then you don't really, you know, you feel a bit hesitant to go digging deep in your life looking for holes. And it wasn't so much that, but I guess I lined it up with some of the things that I want. You know, when you have goals, it's kind of like your duty to yourself to do it. When you want to make an impact, especially, like for me, I personally want to leave a positive impact with anyone. Oh my God, it sounds so cheesy, but in my work, even though it sounds so statistical, like statistics and like seems very logical, I want to make a difference in the way that people believe in themselves. And I don't know where that comes from. Maybe that comes from my own experience, thinking that I believed in myself, but my external world hadn't really reflected that. And I even remember as a child, I used to write a diary. I've always written in a diary of some sort. And for some reason, like, must have been about 6 or 7 or something. And I used to think to myself, you know, it's really important that I document these things, because when I start getting everything that I want, then we can look back and say that this normal shy girl who, you know, like I had safety, I had loving parents, but you know, I just used to see myself so small. And I always used to think, you know, this is going to be important for me to document, because one day, if I can prove that someone so small and shy and, you know, just that's what I used to see myself as, like, not deserving. I was like, when I overcome that, then I'm going to show any person who's just like me, like, they can do it too. Even when I talk about it, even till now when I talk about it, I get a bit emotional, because I'm like, why am I so into that? But I think it's really challenging when you really feel as though the way that you've always seen yourself is small, and what you deserve is only small. Like, even just saying it is so sad, it's so small. And so I guess always as a kid, I've always known, like, I would overcome some hurdles of not external world, but my own personal hurdles. And so I've like documented, so my whole business journey I've documented. Some of it's high, some of it, I even documented the time that I changed my car, and I took a video of like me being in my old car, like, guys, this is my old car, this is my new car, because I was like, there's 100%, there's someone out there in the world who doesn't believe that they can get the car that they want. And because I was that person, like, I didn't believe it. And then I'm like, now I have it. And that's not to do with anyone else's, you know, that's what I value and what I wanted to achieve. You know, to some people getting a car is like nothing, but to me it's like a representation of something that I didn't even think I deserved. And so yeah, I think that if you are, you know, if you're in business already and you're already even in that, you have some level of success, I think it takes a lot of balls to like go your own way and make your own way. And like, let's say you have kids after that and they start to mirror your successes, then ultimately you've paved the way for them. And that's like, what a blessing. And that's how I feel like sometimes my role is. I'm like, all right, well, you've done all this documentation. The next thing you kind of got to share what you've it's like instinctive for me to come online and do these talks, because I always think about every single step that I've had and taken in terms of healing something, accepting things that aren't really, you know, I don't know, you know, sometimes certain things around health, mental health, anxiety, they're not talked about often over a barbecue. You know what I mean? Like, they're not often the topics at a party. But I know that there are things that we seek answers for. And I think that I'm so glad that I went through, you know, all of these learnings and processes and growth periods, that I just feel, you know, when we were talking about feeling inclined to, and you just want to do it because you just feel like it's like not an effort. That's this. That's what this is. Yeah. And I'm kind of just hope that, no, I think I say hope, but I think deep down inside I kind of know that whether it's today or whether it's a year from now, someone who needs to hear some of the stuff that we talked about today or in the past couple of weeks, they're going to stumble upon this. Because maybe I was that person when I stumbled upon someone else's video and I really needed to hear something that was going to change the way I saw myself or the way that I operated. And that's the place that this really comes from. It's not, it's not much for any other reason. Anyway, we got a little bit further deep there. So shall we, I'll let you guys go for your evenings because I know that it's late there in America. Anyone want to, Phil, did the landmark experience help you with anxiety in your business and for yourself? The landmark experience, like the first one and the second one really got me to be aware of things that I never would have known. You know, like, have you ever gone out in public and you have something on your face and nobody tells you, and then you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, that's there. And then when you see that it's there, you have the choice to like remove it or to keep it there, but at least you had the choice. Or what about if you go out and you have something on your face and everyone's telling you, but you actually don't believe them? You think that they are nonsense and they're telling you there's something on your face and you're like, no, there isn't. And that's the other thing about like lacking self-awareness is like you can be told a million times, you can, you know, or you might not even be told because maybe people are too scared to tell you for some reason, but you've got this thing on your face and no one's telling you, or there's something on your face and people are telling you all the time and you're like, no, it isn't. That's what happened to me in Landmark 1 and 2 is that it's like I had these things that were there or there, whether people would tell me about it or not tell me about it. Maybe they didn't even see it, but I was like in my own way, and that transformed my life. And did it help in my business? Yeah. It was the first time that I fully accepted the concept of taking accountability for results. So back then, before this, I just thought that I was a product of my environment and like my results were because of this and that, when I realized like 100% of my results are all me. The landmark experience. Yes, I've experienced, I've been through experience like that before. I know when I'm sitting down anywhere in my home, a spider will appear out of nowhere. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. Yeah, so, but it was the third one, the self-expression leadership program that changed what I saw I could do in business. So I used to have a belief that in order to succeed, I had to have a lot of other people, like, I don't know. I just always kind of like, before that, I felt like it's important to have support. Like that's what I learned how to hire and, you know, get help that way. But in terms of like the success that you bring yourself to, like let's say if you climb a mountain, like it's your legs that will take you there, you know what I mean? I always felt that I needed more than just me. You know, like I don't know what I need, but anyway, it was very practical. Yeah, SELP. It was more than a practical, it was a very practical way of putting some of my learnings. But beyond that, Phil, as well, like I think what contributed was I continued to practice and apply, and because I think landmark is one thing, but again, like once you grow and you have an awareness, there's again, like you reach your new level, but then once you hover around that same level, then you're essentially hovering regardless. And so I think after that, what happened? Oh yeah, that's when I hired my first business coach. And then after that, there's been a lot of coaching over the years, and then different platforms of where I learned more skills and that sort of thing. And it's been great. And then more towards the recent years. So Landmark was a very practical application. I think you really need, like, that's one of the most important things. It brought awareness to self. And then when it came to making other decisions, that's when I became more inclined towards things like law of attraction and manifestation. Yeah. it's all kind of like blended together, the practical application of things and business application of things, and then the sort of like the spiritual, the well-being side of things. And then stacking them together, I think, has gotten to a great place. But also being able to be in my life, like for you, you know, like you're in your life, you've learned these things, you're applying them, but you know, you're in your life. So you to be able to apply those things consistently, and it's you see the change happen. You know what I mean? Like things change regularly. But sometimes they don't appear to change in such a bold, powerful way. Sometimes they're just small little tweaks, but they're powerful little tweaks. So, all right. Well, it's the same transformation of something new and different, self-improvement, reborn. Yes. Yeah. Transformation. That's what it is. So, I know it's late there now, so let's wrap this up. It's so cool that you guys have Landmark there. I think it's honestly one of the first things to, anyone, even in business, like especially if you are a coach and you want to coach people, I think one of the best experiences is to be coached, because you will be able to put yourself in the shoes of someone who's going through that transformation. So yes. So thank you for being here today. It's always a pleasure. If you have any ideas for next week's topic, please let me know. Oh, these lives are getting longer. Like today's 76 minutes. Last week was like 50 something. Let me know in the comment section. But for now, I bid you adieu. It's good night time over there. It's going to be 4 p.m. over here soon. And I shall chat with you next week. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Phil. Thank you for anyone who's here, who's not in the comment section. And if you have any requests, just drop them below. Okie dokes. See you next week. 2 p.m. Brisbane time. World clock. I think world time buddy is if you want to convert. Bye.